My stepmother demanded I break up with my boyfriend so my disabled stepsister could have him instead. When I refused, she started lying to my dad about our relationship being over and tried to destroy my life until I finally moved away and cut contact with my toxic family. I, 24F, need to get this off my chest because I keep questioning if I'm the crazy one here. This involves my stepmother Hannah, 52F, my stepsister Emma, 22F, my dad Robert, 55M, and my boyfriend of 3 years, Leo, 26M. It's important to understand how we got here. When I was 8 years old, my biological mother left us. She packed her bags one morning while my dad was at work and I was at school. I came home to find a note on the kitchen counter saying she couldn't handle being a mother anymore. My dad had to explain to an 8-year-old why mommy wasn't coming back. He raised me alone for 2 years. When I was 10, my dad met Hannah at a parent-teacher conference. Her daughter Emma was in my grade but at a different school. Emma had been born with spina bifida and used a wheelchair. Hannah was recently divorced and working as a substitute teacher to make ends meet. My dad owned a small plumbing business that was doing well. Hannah started coming around more often. She would bring Emma over for playdates, and gradually she began staying for dinner. I remember being excited to have another girl around, especially one who seemed so sweet. Emma was shy and quiet, always polite to adults. She had this way of looking at you with big eyes that made you want to protect her. My dad and Hannah got married when I was 12. Hannah quit her substitute teaching job because my dad's business was expanding and he could support all of us. We moved into a bigger house with wheelchair accessibility for Emma. Hannah took care of the household while my dad worked long hours. Emma and I shared the upstairs, though she had the room with the stair lift. Those first few years were good. Hannah made sure I didn't feel left out even though Emma needed more attention due to her medical appointments and physical therapy sessions. She helped me with homework, came to my soccer games, and made sure I had everything I needed for school. Emma and I got along well enough. We watched movies together and she helped me with math while I helped her with English. When I was 15, I met Leo at a summer camp for kids with disabilities and their siblings. The camp paired typical kids with disabled kids for activities. I was there because of Emma, and Leo was there because his younger brother had autism. Leo was 17 then and already working part-time while finishing high school. He was patient with Emma during the camp activities and made her laugh a lot. She seemed more outgoing around him than with other people. After camp ended, Leo started coming over to our house. He became friends with Emma first, actually. She loved talking to him about books and movies. He treated her like any other teenager, not like someone to pity. My dad liked him because he was respectful and had a job. Hannah seemed pleased that Emma had made a friend. Over the next 2 years, Leo became a regular fixture at our house. He would come over after school and on weekends. Emma always brightened up when he arrived. She started asking when he was coming over and would get upset if he canceled plans. I didn't think much of it at the time. I was busy with my own high school activities and part-time job at a clothing store. During my senior year, something shifted. Leo started asking me to hang out without Emma sometimes. We began talking more when she wasn't around. He helped me study for my SATs and drove me to job interviews. One evening in the spring, while we were sitting on the back porch after Emma had gone inside, he told me he had liked me for a while but hadn't wanted to make things weird since we were all friends. We started dating that summer before I left for college. Emma's behavior changed immediately. She became moody and short with me. When Leo came over, she would monopolize his attention and get upset when he wanted to spend time with both of us or just with me. Hannah noticed the change and asked me about it. I told her I thought Emma might have developed a crush on Leo. Hannah nodded and said she would talk to her about it. I went to college 3 hours away while Leo stayed local and started working full-time at an auto repair shop. Emma began her senior year of high school. During my visits home, I noticed Emma was still cold toward me, but Hannah said she was just adjusting to me being away at college. Leo and I maintained our relationship long distance for 2 years. He visited me at school when he could, and I came home for holidays and some weekends. Things were good between us, though the distance was hard sometimes. Emma gradually seemed to warm up to me again, though she still acted strangely when Leo was around. After I graduated college, I moved back home temporarily while job hunting. Leo and I were talking about moving in together once I found steady work. That's when things started getting weird again. Emma had just started community college, taking online classes because transportation was easier that way. She was home most of the time, and Hannah had started working part-time at the library. Emma began asking about Leo constantly. When was he coming over? Could she call him to ask about something? Did I think he would want to watch a certain movie with her? One afternoon, Leo came over while I was at a job interview. When I got home, he pulled me aside and said Emma had been acting strange. She had suggested they watch a romantic comedy and kept trying to get him to sit closer to her on the couch. When he kept his distance, she started crying and said no one would ever love her because of her disability. Leo felt terrible but said he made an excuse to leave early. I talked to Hannah about it that evening. She listened and then said she would handle it. She reminded me that Emma had limited social interaction and might not understand appropriate boundaries. I accepted this explanation and tried to be more understanding. 2 weeks later, I got a job at a marketing firm in the next town over. Leo and I found a small apartment we could afford together. When I told my family about our moving plans, Hannah's face went pale. Emma started crying and ran to her room. My dad seemed happy for us, but Hannah barely spoke the rest of the evening. Over the next month, as Leo and I prepared to move, Hannah's attitude became increasingly cold. She made comments about how I was abandoning the family and how Emma would miss me. Emma alternated between ignoring me completely and being overly clingy. She started having more medical appointments and complained about pain more frequently. The week before we were supposed to move, Emma had what Hannah called a panic attack. She hyperventilated and said she couldn't handle me leaving. Hannah insisted I postpone the move until Emma felt more stable. My dad supported Hannah's request. Leo was frustrated but agreed to wait a few more weeks. During those weeks, Emma's episodes became more frequent. Anytime moving plans came up, she would have breathing problems or complain of severe pain. Hannah scheduled more doctor appointments and said the doctors were concerned about Emma's stress levels. My dad asked me to be patient and understanding. This pattern continued for 2 months. Every time Leo and I tried to set a moving date, Emma would have a medical crisis. Hannah would say the doctors advised against any major changes in Emma's environment. I started to suspect the episodes were not entirely medical, but I felt guilty for thinking that way. Last month, Hannah asked to speak with me privately. She said she was worried about Emma's mental health and that the doctors had suggested Emma might benefit from having Leo around more often since he seemed to calm her down. Hannah asked if Leo could spend more time at the house, maybe even move into our spare room temporarily to help Emma adjust to changes. I told Hannah that Leo was my boyfriend, not Emma's caregiver, and that we had our own plans. Hannah's expression changed. She said she was disappointed in my selfishness and that I didn't understand how much Emma had been through in her life. She said Emma deserved happiness too and that I was being cruel by keeping Leo away from her. That conversation bothered me for days. When I told Leo about it, he was shocked. He said he had never given Emma any indication that he was interested in her romantically and that Hannah's suggestion made him uncomfortable. Yesterday, everything came to a head. Hannah asked me to meet her at a coffee shop to talk. She seemed nervous, which was unusual for her. She started by talking about how much she had done for me over the years, how she had treated me like her own daughter, and how she had always put my needs first. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. She told me that Emma was deeply in love with Leo and that her medical episodes were real but triggered by seeing Leo with me. She said Emma had confided that she thought Leo liked her too but was only with me out of obligation since we had been friends first. Hannah then asked me to break up with Leo. She said it would be a temporary sacrifice that would give Emma a chance to see if she and Leo were compatible. She promised that if things didn't work out between them, I could have Leo back. She said this was my chance to repay her for all the years she had taken care of me like a real mother. I stared at her for a long moment, trying to process what she was asking. I told her that Leo was not a toy to be passed around and that he had never shown any romantic interest in Emma. Hannah insisted that men sometimes didn't know what they wanted and that Leo might surprise himself if he gave Emma a chance. When I refused, Hannah started crying. She said I was being selfish and that I didn't understand what it was like to watch your child suffer. She said Emma might never find love because of her disability and that Leo was kind enough to see past it. She begged me to think about what was best for the family. I left the coffee shop without giving her an answer. I drove straight to Leo's workplace and told him everything. His reaction was immediate and strong. He said Hannah's request was inappropriate and manipulative. He assured me that he had never been interested in Emma romantically and never would be. Now I'm sitting in our apartment, which we finally got last week despite the family drama, trying to figure out what to do next. Hannah has been calling and texting me constantly. My dad called this morning asking why I was upsetting Hannah and what could possibly be so important that I couldn't compromise for Emma's sake. I haven't told my dad exactly what Hannah asked me to do because I'm not sure he would believe me. Hannah has always been good at presenting herself as the reasonable one who just wants everyone to be happy. I'm also worried about what this will do to Emma if it all comes out. But I can't stop thinking about Hannah's request. The more I think about it, the more I realize this has been building for years. All those times Emma got upset when Leo and I spent time together. All the medical crises that conveniently happened when we tried to move forward with our relationship. Hannah's comments about me being selfish for wanting my own life. Am I wrong to refuse Hannah's request? Is there some compromise I'm not seeing? I love my family, but I don't think I can sacrifice my relationship to make Emma happy. Leo has been nothing but kind to her, but that doesn't mean he owes her a romantic relationship. I keep going back and forth on whether I should tell my dad what Hannah asked me to do. Part of me thinks he deserves to know, but part of me is afraid it will destroy our family. Hannah has been a good stepmother to me in many ways, and I don't want to hurt her or Emma unnecessarily. What would you do in my situation? Update 1: I didn't expect to be back here so soon, but things have taken a turn I never could have predicted. Thank you to everyone who commented on my original post. A lot of you said I needed to tell my dad what Hannah had asked me to do, and you were right. After I posted, I spent several days trying to decide how to handle the situation. Hannah kept calling and texting, asking me to reconsider her request. She started sending me articles about how hard it is for people with disabilities to find love and how important it is for family members to support each other. Emma was also texting me, though her messages were different. She kept asking when Leo was coming over again and whether he had mentioned her. Leo was getting frustrated with the whole situation. He said the constant family drama was affecting our relationship and that we needed to set some boundaries. He suggested I talk to my dad and get everything out in the open. He was right, but I kept putting it off because I was afraid of what would happen. Last Tuesday, the decision was made for me. I was at work when my dad called me, upset and confused. He said Hannah had told him that Leo and I had broken up and that Leo was now interested in Emma. According to Hannah, I was being difficult about it and trying to interfere with their budding relationship. I was so shocked I couldn't speak for a moment. My dad continued, saying that Hannah was worried I was having trouble accepting the change and that maybe I needed some time away from the family to process things. He suggested I stay at Leo's place for a while to give everyone space to adjust. That's when I realized how far Hannah was willing to go with her manipulation. She had decided to force the situation by lying to my dad and presenting it as a done deal. I told my dad that Hannah had lied to him and that Leo and I were still very much together. He seemed confused and said he would need to talk to Hannah about the miscommunication. I left work early and drove straight home. I found Hannah and Emma in the kitchen, and they both went quiet when I walked in. I asked Hannah why she had told my dad that Leo and I had broken up. She looked uncomfortable and said there had been a misunderstanding. She claimed she had been talking hypothetically about what might happen if I decided to put Emma's needs first. Emma was sitting at the kitchen table looking back and forth between us. I could tell she knew something was going on, but I wasn't sure how much Hannah had told her about her plan. I asked Emma directly if Hannah had told her that Leo and I were broken up. Emma nodded and said Hannah had told her that Leo was going to start spending more time with her and less time with me. That's when I realized Emma was in on it, at least partially. Hannah had been preparing her for the outcome she wanted, probably building up her hopes. I asked Emma if she really thought Leo was interested in her romantically. She got defensive and said that Leo was always nice to her and that he had told her she was pretty and smart. I asked when Leo had said those things. Emma described conversations that sounded friendly and supportive, not romantic. Leo had never said anything inappropriate to her, but Hannah had apparently been interpreting his kindness as romantic interest and sharing those interpretations with Emma. When my dad got home from work, I asked to speak with him privately. I told him everything, starting with Hannah's request at the coffee shop and ending with her lies about Leo and me breaking up. My dad listened without interrupting, and his expression got more serious as I talked. After I finished, my dad was quiet for a long time. Then he said he needed to hear Hannah's side of the story before he could make any judgments. He called Hannah into the room and asked her to explain what was going on. Hannah's story was very different from mine. She said I had been cruel to Emma about her feelings for Leo, that I had threatened to keep Leo away from the family if Emma didn't stop having crushes on him. She said she had only suggested that I consider Emma's feelings when making decisions about my relationship, not that I should break up with Leo. She claimed I had misunderstood her request and blown it out of proportion. Emma backed up Hannah's version of events. She said I had been mean to her about Leo and that Hannah had only been trying to protect her. She said she had never asked for Leo and me to break up, but that it hurt her when I acted like she wasn't allowed to have feelings. My dad looked between us, clearly struggling to figure out who was telling the truth. He said this was a complicated situation and that we all needed to calm down and find a way to work together. He suggested family counseling to help us communicate better. I realized at that moment that Hannah had been planning this confrontation. She had prepared Emma with a story that painted me as the villain and herself as the protective mother. She had probably been working on this narrative for weeks, knowing that eventually I would tell my dad about our conversation. I told my dad that I wouldn't be participating in family counseling because Hannah had already proven she would lie to manipulate the situation. I said I needed some time away from the family to think about whether I wanted to maintain a relationship with people who would treat me this way. My dad got upset and said I was overreacting. He said families go through difficult times and that walking away wasn't the solution. He accused me of being stubborn and selfish, just like my biological mother had been. That comment hit me hard. I had spent my entire childhood trying to be nothing like my biological mother, who had abandoned us when things got difficult. But I realized that staying in a situation where I was being manipulated and lied about wasn't loyalty, it was just accepting abuse. I packed a bag and went to stay with Leo. That was 2 weeks ago, and I haven't been back to the house since. My dad has called several times asking me to come home and work things out. Hannah has sent messages saying she's sorry for the misunderstanding and that she just wants what's best for everyone. Emma has texted asking why I'm being so mean to the family. But here's the thing that really bothers me, none of them have acknowledged what actually happened. Hannah hasn't admitted that she asked me to break up with Leo. Emma hasn't admitted that she was hoping I would. My dad hasn't acknowledged that Hannah lied to him about Leo and me breaking up. Instead, they're all acting like this is just a family disagreement that got out of hand. They want me to come back and pretend nothing happened, to go back to the way things were before. But I can't do that now that I know what Hannah is capable of and how far she's willing to go to get what she wants for Emma. Leo has been incredibly supportive through all of this. He's made it clear that he wants nothing to do with Hannah's manipulation and that he's committed to our relationship. He's also offered to talk to my dad directly about what happened, but I'm not sure it would help at this point. The hardest part is that I do love my family, even after everything that's happened. Hannah did take care of me for many years, and she wasn't always manipulative. Emma is my sister, even if she's not handling this situation well. My dad raised me and worked hard to provide for our family. But I'm starting to understand that love doesn't mean accepting treatment that hurts you. Hannah crossed a line when she asked me to sacrifice my relationship for Emma's happiness. She crossed another line when she lied to my dad and tried to manipulate the situation to get what she wanted. I don't know what's going to happen next. My dad says he won't support me financially anymore if I don't come home and work things out with the family. Hannah and Emma are acting like I'm the one who caused this whole mess by being selfish and unforgiving. Part of me wonders if I should just go back and try to make peace. It would be easier than dealing with all this conflict and uncertainty. But every time I consider it, I remember Hannah sitting across from me in that coffee shop asking me to break up with my boyfriend so her daughter could have him. I remember the look in her eyes when she lied to my dad about what had happened. I can't go back to pretending that was okay. I can't go back to walking on eggshells around Emma's feelings or accepting Hannah's manipulation as normal family dynamics. So I guess I'm here asking for advice again. How do you rebuild your life when your family turns against you for refusing to be manipulated? How do you deal with the guilt of walking away from people who claim to love you but won't respect your boundaries? Update 2. I wish I could say things got better after my last update, but they actually got much worse before they started to improve. I'm writing this from my new apartment that I share with Leo, and I finally feel like I can breathe again. After my last post, I stayed away from my family for about 3 weeks. During that time, Hannah escalated her campaign to get me to come home. She started calling my work, telling my supervisor that there was a family emergency and that I needed to come home immediately. When my supervisor gave me the messages, I had to explain that there was no emergency and that my stepmother was lying. Hannah also reached out to some of my college friends through social media. She told them I was having some kind of mental breakdown and asked them to convince me to come home. Several friends called me worried, and I had to explain the real situation to them. It was embarrassing and exhausting. The worst part was what she did to Leo. Hannah somehow got his work number and called his boss. She told Leo's supervisor that Leo had been inappropriate with a disabled family member and that the family was considering pressing charges. Leo's boss called him into the office the next day for a very uncomfortable conversation. Leo had to explain the whole situation to his boss, including showing text messages between us that proved we were in a committed relationship. Fortunately, his boss believed him and understood that this was a family dispute rather than anything criminal. But Leo was shaken by the experience, and it made us both realize how far Hannah was willing to go. That incident convinced me I needed to take more drastic action. I couldn't keep living in limbo while Hannah tried to destroy my relationship and my reputation. I decided to write a detailed letter to my dad explaining exactly what had happened, including Hannah's original request and all her subsequent lies and manipulations. In the letter, I told my dad that I loved him but that I couldn't have a relationship with him if he continued to enable Hannah's behavior. I said I was willing to maintain a relationship with him separate from Hannah and Emma, but only if he acknowledged what had really happened and stopped expecting me to tolerate Hannah's manipulation. I also wrote a letter to Emma. I told her that I didn't blame her for having feelings for Leo, but that she needed to understand that those feelings didn't give her the right to my relationship. I said I hoped she could find happiness with someone who actually wanted to be with her, but that person was never going to be Leo. I mailed both letters and then waited. For a week, I heard nothing. Then my dad called and asked to meet me for coffee. He sounded tired and older than I remembered. When we met, my dad looked like he hadn't been sleeping well. He said he had confronted Hannah about the things I had written in my letter. At first, she denied everything and said I was lying to turn him against her. But when he pressed her for details about specific conversations, her story started falling apart. My dad said the turning point came when he asked Hannah directly if she had ever asked me to break up with Leo. Hannah finally admitted that she had suggested I consider putting Emma's happiness first, but she insisted it had been a reasonable request from one family member to another. When my dad asked her about lying to him about Leo and me breaking up, Hannah said she had been trying to protect Emma from disappointment and that she thought I would eventually come around to seeing things her way. She said she had never intended for things to get so complicated. My dad told me he was ashamed that he hadn't believed me immediately. He said Hannah had always been so good at explaining things in a way that made her seem reasonable and caring that he had gotten used to trusting her judgment over his own instincts. He apologized for comparing me to my biological mother and asked if we could work on rebuilding our relationship. I told my dad I appreciated his apology, but that I needed to see some concrete changes before I could trust him again. I said he needed to set boundaries with Hannah about her behavior toward me and Leo, and that he needed to stop expecting me to sacrifice my own happiness for Emma's emotional needs. My dad agreed to those conditions, but he also asked if I would consider giving the family one more chance to work things out. He said Hannah claimed she was sorry and wanted to make things right. He thought maybe we could all sit down and have an honest conversation about what had happened. Against my better judgment, I agreed to one family meeting. I told my dad it would be at a neutral location, not their house, and that Leo would be coming with me. I also said that if Hannah lied or tried to manipulate the situation during the meeting, I would leave and not give them another chance. The meeting was a disaster. We met at a restaurant, and Hannah came prepared with a whole speech about how much she loved me and how sorry she was for any misunderstandings. But when I asked her to specifically acknowledge that she had asked me to break up with Leo, she couldn't do it. Instead, Hannah kept saying things like she had only wanted me to consider Emma's feelings or that she had suggested I think about what was best for the whole family. She wouldn't use the words break up even though that was exactly what she had asked me to do. Emma was even worse. She accused me of being jealous of her relationship with Leo and said I was trying to keep them apart because I was insecure. She said Leo had been leading her on by being nice to her and that I was forcing him to pretend he didn't have feelings for her. Leo finally spoke up and told Emma directly that he had never been interested in her romantically and never would be. He said he had been kind to her as a friend and as my sister, but that she had misinterpreted his friendship as something more. Emma started crying and said Leo was only saying that because I was controlling him. Hannah immediately jumped to Emma's defense and said Leo was being cruel to a vulnerable person. She said she couldn't believe Leo would reject Emma just because of her disability. That's when I realized nothing had actually changed. Hannah and Emma were still living in a fantasy where Leo secretly wanted to be with Emma but was being prevented by mean, selfish me. They hadn't learned anything from the past few months of conflict. I stood up to leave, and my dad asked me to stay and keep trying. He said families were supposed to work through their problems, not give up when things got difficult. I told him that I had tried to work through the problem, but that Hannah and Emma weren't willing to acknowledge reality. As we walked out of the restaurant, Hannah called after me that she would never give up on her daughter's happiness. She said I could run away like my biological mother had, but that she would always fight for Emma. That comment was the final straw for me. I realized that Hannah saw me as an obstacle to Emma's happiness rather than as a daughter she was supposed to love and protect. No matter what I did or how much I sacrificed, it would never be enough because Hannah would always prioritize Emma's wants over my needs. Leo and I left town the next day. We had been planning to move anyway because Leo had gotten a job offer in another city. The job paid better and would give us a fresh start away from all the family drama. We've been here for 6 weeks now, and it's been peaceful. No manipulative phone calls, no guilt trips about family loyalty, no one asking me to sacrifice my happiness for someone else's benefit. Leo loves his new job, and I found work at a marketing agency that's much better than my old position. My dad has called a few times, and our conversations have been civil but distant. He keeps hoping I'll change my mind about Hannah and Emma, but I've made it clear that's not going to happen. I told him he's welcome to visit us here if he wants to maintain a relationship with me, but I won't be coming back to deal with Hannah's manipulation. Hannah sent me one final text message last week. She said she hoped I was happy with my choice to abandon my family for a man who would probably leave me eventually anyway. She said Emma was heartbroken and that it was my fault for being selfish and cruel. I blocked her number after that. I also blocked Emma, who had been sending me messages about how unfair I was being and how much I was hurting the family by staying away. The thing is, I don't feel guilty anymore. For years, I accepted that my role in the family was to be understanding, flexible, and willing to sacrifice for Emma's needs. I thought that was what good sisters did and what grateful daughters owed their stepmother. But I understand now that Hannah never saw me as her daughter. She saw me as a resource to be used for Emma's benefit. When I stopped being useful in that way, she was willing to lie about me, sabotage my relationship, and try to destroy my reputation. Emma never saw me as her sister either. She saw me as competition for Leo's attention and eventually as an obstacle to getting what she wanted. She was willing to participate in Hannah's lies and manipulation because it served her interests. My dad was so invested in maintaining peace in his household that he was willing to sacrifice my well-being rather than confront Hannah's behavior. He wanted me to keep absorbing Hannah's manipulation so he wouldn't have to deal with the conflict of standing up to her. None of that was love, even though they all claimed it was. Love doesn't ask you to sacrifice your happiness for someone else's convenience. Love doesn't require you to accept lies and manipulation for the sake of family harmony. I'm building a new life now with people who actually care about my well-being. Leo has never asked me to sacrifice anything for his benefit, and he's never lied to me or tried to manipulate me. That's what a healthy relationship looks like. I don't know if my dad will ever understand what happened or if he'll always blame me for breaking up the family. But I can't control his choices. I can only control my own, and I choose to surround myself with people who treat me with respect and honesty. Update 3: I'm writing this final update because I want to close the book on this chapter of my life and because some people have been asking for resolution. It's been 6 months since I moved away with Leo, and I can honestly say it was the best decision I ever made. Life here has been good. Leo got promoted at his job, and we're saving money to buy a house. I'm working at a company where my boss appreciates my skills and doesn't have to deal with family members calling about fake emergencies. We've made friends with our neighbors and joined a hiking group. It's the kind of normal, peaceful life I never thought I could have. My dad visited us twice. The first visit was awkward because he kept bringing up Hannah and Emma, asking if I missed them or if I was ready to forgive them. He seemed to think that enough time had passed for me to get over what happened. I had to explain that this wasn't about holding grudges, but about protecting myself from people who had proven they would lie and manipulate to get what they wanted. The second visit went better. My dad seemed to understand that I wasn't coming back, and he stopped trying to convince me to reconcile with Hannah and Emma. We talked about other things, and for a few hours, it felt like we had a normal father-daughter relationship again. He said he was proud of the life Leo and I were building together. But my dad also told me some things that confirmed I had made the right choice in leaving. Apparently, after I moved away, Emma went through a period where she was convinced Leo would realize he missed her and come back for her. Hannah encouraged this fantasy and even suggested they should drive to our new city to surprise him. My dad put a stop to that plan, but only because he was worried about how it would look if they showed up uninvited. He didn't seem to understand that the plan was inappropriate because Leo had made his feelings clear and because stalking someone is wrong regardless of how it looks. Hannah also started telling people in their social circle that I had turned against the family because I couldn't handle Emma finding happiness. According to my dad, she was painting herself as the long-suffering mother whose disabled daughter was being persecuted by a jealous stepsister. Some people believed her story, which didn't surprise me. Emma eventually started dating someone she met through an online support group for people with disabilities. My dad said she seemed happy with this new person, and Hannah was thrilled that Emma was finally getting the attention she deserved. Apparently, neither of them saw any irony in the fact that Emma was perfectly capable of finding someone who actually wanted to be with her once she stopped fixating on Leo. My dad asked if I would consider reaching out to congratulate Emma on her new relationship. I told him no. Emma had participated in Hannah's attempts to manipulate and control my life, and she had never apologized or acknowledged what she had done wrong. The fact that she had found happiness didn't erase her past behavior. About 3 months ago, Hannah tried one final manipulation. She sent me a message through my dad saying that Emma was getting married and wanted me to be her maid of honor. The message said that this was my chance to be the bigger person and show that family was more important than past disagreements. I told my dad to let Hannah know that I wouldn't be participating in Emma's wedding in any capacity. I also told him that if Hannah tried to contact me again through him or anyone else, I would cut off contact with him too. I had drawn clear boundaries, and I wasn't going to let Hannah keep crossing them just because she put a wedding dress on her manipulation. My dad was disappointed but said he understood. He also admitted that he thought Hannah's request was inappropriate given everything that had happened. It was the first time he had criticized Hannah's behavior directly, and it meant something to me that he was finally seeing her clearly. 2 weeks ago, Emma got married. My dad sent me a photo from the wedding, and Emma looked genuinely happy with her new husband. I was glad for her, but I didn't regret not being there. That wedding represented a family that had never really accepted me as anything more than a tool for Emma's benefit. Leo and I are getting engaged next month. We're planning a small ceremony with just a few close friends. My dad will be invited, but Hannah and Emma will not. I've learned that you get to choose who witnesses the most important moments of your life, and I choose to surround myself with people who have earned the right to be there. Some people might think I'm being too harsh or that I should have tried harder to make things work with my family. But I've realized that trying harder would have just meant accepting more manipulation and abuse. Hannah never would have stopped trying to control my life for Emma's benefit, and Emma never would have stopped seeing me as an obstacle to her happiness. The truth is that Hannah and Emma didn't love me. They loved what I could do for them and how I could make their lives easier. When I stopped being useful in that way, they were willing to lie about me, sabotage my relationship, and try to isolate me from anyone who supported me. My dad loved me, but he loved his peaceful household more. He was willing to sacrifice my well-being to avoid conflict with Hannah. That's not the kind of love I deserved, and it's not the kind of love I'm willing to accept anymore. I don't wake up every morning wondering what manipulation Hannah might try next or what emotional crisis Emma might have if she doesn't get what she wants. I don't have to walk on eggshells or sacrifice my own needs to keep the peace. I don't have to pretend that lies are misunderstandings or that abuse is love. Instead, I wake up next to someone who has never asked me to be less than I am for his benefit. I work at a job where my contributions are valued. I have friends who respect my boundaries and support my decisions. I have a relationship with my dad that's honest, even if it's not as close as it used to be. This is what it looks like when you stop accepting treatment that hurts you just because it comes from people who claim to love you. This is what it looks like when you choose your own well-being over other people's comfort. I'm not sharing this story to get sympathy or to convince anyone that I made the right choice. I'm sharing it because I wish someone had told me years ago that family members who manipulate and lie to you aren't acting out of love, no matter what they say. I wish someone had told me that walking away from toxic people isn't giving up on family, it's protecting yourself so you can build healthier relationships. If you're in a situation where family members are asking you to sacrifice your happiness for someone else's benefit, or where people are lying about you to get what they want, you don't have to stay and take it. You don't owe anyone your peace of mind or your well-being just because you share DNA or because they helped raise you. Hannah took care of me for many years, and I'm grateful for that. But gratitude doesn't mean I had to let her control my adult life or destroy my relationship. Emma is disabled and faces challenges I don't have to deal with, and I have compassion for that. But her challenges didn't give her the right to my boyfriend or to participate in schemes to manipulate me. My dad worked hard to provide for our family after my biological mother left, and I appreciate everything he did. But his sacrifices didn't mean I had to sacrifice myself to keep his second wife happy. Sometimes the people who claim to love you the most are the ones who will hurt you the worst because they think their love gives them the right to control you. Sometimes walking away is the only way to save yourself. I don't know if Hannah, Emma, and my dad will ever understand what they did wrong. I don't know if they'll ever admit that their treatment of me was inappropriate and harmful. But I don't need their understanding or their apologies to move forward with my life. I have Leo, who treats me like a partner instead of a possession. I have friends who respect my boundaries. I have a job that values my skills. I have a future that belongs to me, not to people who think they know what's best for me better than I do. That's enough. That's more than enough. That's everything I needed but was afraid to reach for because I thought I owed other people my loyalty even when they didn't deserve it. If anyone reading this is dealing with family members who manipulate, lie, or try to control your life, please know that you deserve better. You deserve relationships built on respect and honesty. You deserve to make your own choices about your life without having to manage other people's emotions about those choices. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. You don't have to sacrifice your happiness to prove your love. You don't have to stay in situations that hurt you just because walking away is hard. This is my final update because this chapter of my life is closed. I'm not the girl who tried to keep everyone happy at her own expense anymore. I'm not the daughter who accepted manipulation because she was grateful for a roof over her head. I'm not the sister who prioritized someone else's wants over her own needs. I'm just Sarah, building a life with someone who loves me without conditions and making choices based on what's best for me instead of what's easiest for everyone else. It took me longer than it should have to get here, but I made it. And if you're reading this and seeing yourself in my story, you can make it too. Now let's move to the next story. Story 2. My daughter-in-law blackmailed us and demanded we include her kids in our will or she'd keep our grandkids away. My son discovered her secret plan and filed for divorce. I'm Emily, 62F, and I've been married to my husband George, 64M, for over 35 years. We met in college and have been inseparable ever since. Our journey together hasn't always been easy, but we've weathered every storm hand in hand. We have one son, Michael, 38M, who recently got married to his second wife, Rebecca, 36F. Michael has 2 children from his previous marriage, a 14-year-old daughter, Lily, and a 12-year-old son, Ethan. They're wonderful kids, and we've been very involved in their lives since they were born. Rebecca also has 2 children from her previous marriage, a 10-year-old son, Adam, and an 8-year-old daughter, Sophie. Michael's first wife, Amanda, was a lovely woman. We considered her a daughter, not just a daughter-in-law. She was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disease shortly after Ethan was born. Despite the challenges, she remained positive and was an amazing mother. Unfortunately, she passed away 6 years ago due to complications from her illness. It was a devastating loss for our family, especially for Michael and the kids. The years following Amanda's death were difficult. Michael threw himself into his work and parenting, barely taking time for himself. We did our best to support him, often staying over to help with the kids or having them at our place so Michael could have some respite. It was heartbreaking to see our son struggling, but we were proud of how he managed to keep it together for Lily and Ethan. About 3 years ago, Michael started dating again. He was hesitant at first, feeling guilty about moving on, but we encouraged him. That's when he met Rebecca through a mutual friend. When he introduced her to us, we were hopeful that he had found happiness once more. Rebecca seemed nice enough, though a bit reserved. She didn't make much effort to get to know us, but we chalked it up to nerves and the pressure of meeting her new partner's family. Rebecca's kids, on the other hand, were quite a handful. Adam was often rude and disruptive during family gatherings, while Sophie had a tendency to throw tantrums when things didn't go her way. We tried not to judge, assuming they were still adjusting to the new family dynamics. However, as time went on and their behavior didn't improve, we couldn't help but notice the stark contrast between them and our well-behaved grandchildren. George and I are fortunate enough to have accumulated a considerable amount of wealth over the years. George had a successful career in finance, and I ran a small but profitable interior design business. We've always been careful with our money, investing wisely and living below our means. Our plan has always been to leave everything to Michael and our grandchildren, Lily and Ethan. We never considered including Rebecca or her children in our will, as we barely knew them and didn't feel particularly close to them. Last week, Rebecca asked to meet with George and me privately. Michael was away on a business trip, so we thought she might want to discuss plans for his upcoming birthday. We invited her over for tea, thinking it would be a good opportunity to bond with our daughter-in-law. However, the conversation took an unexpected and unsettling turn. Rebecca began by saying she had overheard Michael and me discussing our will on the phone recently. It's true that I had called Michael to talk about updating our will, as we had recently acquired some new property and wanted to ensure everything was in order. I was surprised that Rebecca had been listening in on the conversation, but I didn't say anything. She then proceeded to inform us that Michael was unhappy with the current arrangement and wanted us to include Rebecca's children in the inheritance. According to her, Michael felt it was unfair to exclude them but was too afraid of seeming ungrateful to bring it up himself. This immediately struck me as odd, as Michael has always been open and honest with us about everything. What shocked us even more was when Rebecca threatened to restrict our access to Lily and Ethan if we didn't comply with her demands. She claimed this was all Michael's idea and that he supported her stance completely. The idea that our son would use his children as bargaining chips was completely out of character and frankly, unbelievable. George and I were stunned into silence. We've always had a close relationship with Michael, and this didn't sound like him at all. He's always been direct in his communication with us, never hesitating to voice his opinions or concerns. The thought of him using Rebecca as a messenger for something so important seemed highly unlikely. Moreover, the threat to keep our grandchildren away from us was deeply disturbing. Lily and Ethan have been a huge part of our lives since they were born. We've been there for every milestone, every school play, every sports game. The idea of being cut off from them was heartbreaking. We didn't want to accuse Rebecca of lying outright, so we calmly told her we'd think about it and get back to her. As soon as she left, we called Michael to verify her claims. He was in the middle of a conference but stepped out to take our call, sensing the urgency in our voices. When we relayed the conversation to him, Michael was shocked and angry. He assured us he had never said anything of the sort and was appalled that Rebecca would go behind his back like this. He had no idea where she got the idea that he was unhappy with our will or that he wanted her children included. Michael immediately asked us to keep Lily and Ethan with us until he returned from his trip and could sort things out with Rebecca. We readily agreed, and the kids have been staying with us since then. They were initially excited about the impromptu sleepover at Grandma and Grandpa's house, but they're starting to ask questions about why they haven't gone home yet. It's been a week now, and the situation has only gotten worse. Michael has been trying to reason with Rebecca, but she's refusing to back down. She's given him an ultimatum: either convince us to change our will or choose between her and us. Michael is devastated and torn between his love for Rebecca and his loyalty to us and his children. George and I feel terrible about the whole situation. We never intended to cause any family strife with our inheritance plans. We've always seen our wealth as a way to secure our son and grandchildren's future, not as a source of conflict. At the same time, we're hurt and angry that Rebecca would try to manipulate us and potentially ruin our relationship with our son and grandchildren. We're at a loss for what to do. Should we stand our ground or give in to Rebecca's demands for the sake of family peace? Is there a compromise we're not seeing? The thought of losing our relationship with Michael and our grandchildren is heartbreaking, but the idea of being blackmailed into changing our will doesn't sit right with us either. I'm hoping for some outside perspective on this mess. Have we unknowingly been unfair to Rebecca and her children? Should we have made more of an effort to include them in our family? Or are we right to feel betrayed and manipulated? Any advice on how to navigate this difficult situation would be greatly appreciated. Update 1. It's been 2 weeks since my last post, and I want to thank everyone for their supportive comments and advice. It's been a comfort to know that many of you agree that we're not in the wrong here. Unfortunately, things have only gotten worse, and I felt the need to update you all on the situation. Michael has been staying with us along with Lily and Ethan. He took an extended leave from work to deal with his family crisis, which I know wasn't an easy decision for him. Michael has always been dedicated to his job, often working long hours to provide for his family. Seeing him put his career on hold like this really drives home how serious the situation has become. He's been trying to work things out with Rebecca, but she's not budging on her demands. She's still insisting that we either include her children in our will or she'll make sure we never see Lily and Ethan again. It's clear now that this was never about what Michael wanted, but entirely Rebecca's idea. The stress is taking a visible toll on Michael. He's lost weight, has trouble sleeping, and seems constantly on edge. It breaks our hearts to see him like this. George and I have been doing our best to support him, making his favorite meals and trying to create a calm environment at home, but it's clear that the situation is wearing him down. Lily and Ethan are picking up on the tension too, even though we're all trying our best to shield them from the conflict. Lily, always the more sensitive of the two, has been quiet and withdrawn lately. Ethan, on the other hand, has been acting out at school, something that's never happened before. We've had to attend a parent-teacher conference to discuss his behavior, which only added to Michael's stress. Rebecca has escalated her tactics. She's been calling and texting Michael non-stop, alternating between guilt-tripping him and making more threats. She's even started spreading rumors among their mutual friends that we're trying to break up their marriage because we never accepted her or her children. This couldn't be further from the truth, but it's causing Michael a lot of distress. He's always valued his friendships, and the thought of losing them over this is really bothering him. What's even more concerning is that Rebecca has started involving her children in this mess. According to Michael, she's been telling Adam and Sophie that we don't love them and don't want them to be part of our family. It's a cruel thing to do to young children, and it makes us worry about the kind of emotional manipulation she might be capable of. George and I are furious at Rebecca's behavior, but we're trying to stay calm for Michael's sake. We've suggested that he speak to a lawyer to understand his options, especially regarding custody of Lily and Ethan. We're worried that Rebecca might try to use them as pawns in this power play, given her earlier threats. Michael is starting to realize that his marriage might not be salvageable. He confided in us that he's been blind to a lot of Rebecca's manipulative behavior in the past, always making excuses for her or giving in to keep the peace. This situation has opened his eyes to her true nature. He shared a story from early in their relationship that now seems like a red flag. Apparently, Rebecca had pressured him into buying an expensive car they couldn't really afford, insisting that it was necessary to keep up appearances in their neighborhood. Michael had given in to avoid an argument, but it had put a strain on their finances for months. Looking back, he sees it as the beginning of a pattern of manipulation that he'd been too love-struck to notice. We're doing our best to support Michael and the kids through this difficult time. We've made it clear that our home is always open to them, no matter what happens. We've set up the guest room for Michael and made space in the study for the kids to do their homework. It's a tight squeeze, but we're making it work. We're also looking into family counseling options to help Lily and Ethan cope with the stress of potentially another family breakdown. They're still dealing with the loss of their mother, and the thought of them going through another major upheaval breaks our hearts. As for our will, we haven't changed a thing and don't plan to. Rebecca's actions have only reinforced our decision to keep our assets within our immediate family. We're even considering setting up a trust for Lily and Ethan to ensure their future is secure, regardless of what happens between Michael and Rebecca. George and I have been having long talks about how we got to this point. We can't help but wonder if we could have done something differently. Should we have been more welcoming to Rebecca and her children? Did we unknowingly make them feel like outsiders? But then we remember all the times we invited them to family dinners, all the birthdays we celebrated together, all the efforts we made to include them in our lives. It's hard not to feel like no matter what we did, it would never have been enough for Rebecca. This whole situation has made us reflect on our own marriage and the values we've tried to instill in our family. We've always believed in honesty, integrity, and putting family first. Seeing Rebecca's actions has only strengthened our resolve to stand by these principles. I'll keep you all updated as the situation develops. Thank you again for your support and advice. It means more than you know during this difficult time. Update 2. It's been another week, and things have finally come to a head. Michael has decided to file for divorce from Rebecca. He reached this decision after discovering that Rebecca had been planning this manipulation for months, even before their wedding. It all started when Michael decided to go through some old files on their shared home computer. He was looking for some tax documents when he stumbled upon a folder of Rebecca's emails. Normally, he would have respected her privacy, but a subject line caught his eye: plan to secure the inheritance. As he read through the emails, Michael's world turned upside down. It turns out that Rebecca had been snooping through his personal documents and found information about our family's assets. She saw an opportunity to secure a financial future for her children and started plotting how to get them included in our will. The emails dated back to even before their wedding. Rebecca had been seeking advice from friends on how to manipulate the situation. She had outlined her plan to first establish herself as a loving wife and stepmother, then gradually introduce the idea of including her children in our will. If that didn't work, she had backup plans that included emotional manipulation and even threats. When Michael confronted her with this evidence, Rebecca didn't even try to deny it. Instead, she became furious that he had invaded her privacy by reading her emails. She then gave him an ultimatum: either he convince us to change our will, or she would make the divorce as messy and painful as possible. That was the last straw for Michael. He packed up his and the kids' essential belongings and moved them all into our house permanently. He's already spoken to a lawyer and started the divorce proceedings. We're all still in shock over how quickly everything has unraveled. Lily and Ethan are understandably upset and confused. This is the second time they're going through a major family upheaval, and it's taking its toll. Lily has become even more withdrawn, often spending hours alone in her room. Ethan, on the other hand, has been having nightmares and has started to show signs of separation anxiety, not wanting Michael to leave his sight. We're doing our best to provide a stable and loving environment for them, but we know it will take time for them to adjust to yet another major change in their lives. We've set up a routine to give them some sense of normalcy: family dinners every night, helping them with homework, and weekend outings to the park or movies. As for Rebecca, she's been alternating between sending angry messages and pleading for Michael to come back. She's threatened to fight for custody of Lily and Ethan, even though she has no legal right to them. Michael's lawyer assured us that her threats are baseless, but it's still causing a lot of stress. George and I are fully supporting Michael through this process. We're helping with the kids, providing emotional support, and covering his legal fees. We've made it clear to him that he and the kids can stay with us for as long as they need. Our house is a bit crowded now, but we're looking at it as an opportunity to spend more quality time with our family. This whole ordeal has brought our family closer together. We're all rallying around Michael and the kids, determined to get through this as a united front. It's not going to be easy, but we're confident that we're doing the right thing by standing our ground against Rebecca's manipulative tactics. Michael has started opening up more about his relationship with Rebecca. He shared that there were signs of her controlling behavior early on, but he had dismissed them, chalking it up to her being passionate or particular. He regrets not seeing these red flags for what they were, but we've assured him that hindsight is 20/20 and that he shouldn't blame himself. We've also had some difficult conversations about Amanda, Michael's late first wife. Lily and Ethan have been asking more questions about their mother, perhaps seeking comfort in memories of a happier time. It's bittersweet, but we've been sharing stories and looking at old photo albums together. We want the kids to know that it's okay to talk about Amanda and to miss her. I'll post another update when there are significant developments in the divorce proceedings. Thank you all for your continued support and advice. It's been a source of strength for our family during this challenging time. Update 3. It's been a month since my last update, and I wanted to share the latest developments in our family situation. The divorce proceedings between Michael and Rebecca are well underway, and it's been a challenging time for everyone involved. Rebecca, true to her word, is trying to make the divorce as difficult as possible. She's contesting everything, from the division of assets to the custody arrangement for Lily and Ethan. Even though she has no legal claim to the children, she's arguing that she's been a mother figure to them and should be granted visitation rights. It's a stressful situation, but Michael is standing firm in his resolve to protect his children. Fortunately, Michael's lawyer is experienced and has been handling the situation expertly. They've gathered substantial evidence of Rebecca's manipulative behavior, including the emails where she discussed her plans to get her children included in our will. This has significantly strengthened Michael's case. Lily and Ethan have been struggling with the situation, but they're showing remarkable resilience. We've enrolled them in counseling to help them process their emotions and the changes in their lives. It seems to be helping, as they're slowly opening up more about their feelings. Lily has started keeping a journal, which her therapist says is a healthy way for her to express herself. Ethan has joined a youth sports team, which has been great for channeling his energy and emotions. As for Michael, he's doing better now that he's taken decisive action. The stress of the divorce proceedings is still taking its toll, but he's no longer torn between his loyalty to us and his misplaced love for Rebecca. He's focused on protecting his children and rebuilding his life. We've seen glimpses of the old Michael returning. He even cracked a joke the other day, something we haven't heard in months. George and I have been doing everything we can to support our family through this ordeal. We've been taking care of the kids when Michael has to attend meetings with his lawyer or court hearings. We've also been helping Michael look for a new place to live, as he feels it's important to establish a new home for himself and the kids once the divorce is finalized. One positive outcome of this situation is that it's brought our family closer together. We're spending more quality time with Michael and our grandchildren, creating new traditions and happy memories amidst the chaos. We've started having weekly game nights, which have become a favorite for all of us. It's heartwarming to see Lily and Ethan laughing and just being kids again during these times. We've also taken steps to protect our assets and ensure Lily and Ethan's future security. Our lawyer has helped us set up a trust for the children that will be protected even if Rebecca somehow manages to contest our will in the future. It gives us peace of mind knowing that regardless of what happens, our grandchildren's futures are secure. Rebecca's children, Adam and Sophie, have been caught in the middle of this mess. We feel for them, as they're innocent in all of this. Michael has expressed concern about their well-being, knowing firsthand how difficult it is for children to go through a divorce. He's considering reaching out to Rebecca's ex-husband to ensure the children are being properly cared for during this tumultuous time. As difficult as this experience has been, we're cautiously optimistic about the future. We know there are still challenges ahead, particularly as the divorce proceedings continue, but we're facing them as a united family. Michael has started talking about future plans again, considering a career change he's always dreamed of, and even mentioning the possibility of dating again someday, though that's still far off. Lily and Ethan are slowly adjusting to their new normal. They've been spending more time with their friends, which has been good for them. Lily's even talking about joining the school drama club next year, something she was always too shy to do before. Ethan's grades, which had slipped during the initial chaos, are starting to improve again. As for George and me, this experience has reinforced the strength of our own relationship. We've been each other's rock throughout this ordeal, and I'm more grateful than ever for his steady presence and unwavering support.